Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل وجعلنا من خيرة أمة سيدنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. We seek Allah's protection from knowledge that does not benefit, from a heart that has no khushu, from a nafs that's never had enough, from an eye that does not tear, from a dua that's not heard. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we continue with the biography of the Prophet ﷺ, a lesson we can learn from it, the Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. Before that, as we have been doing for the past few weeks, a reminder to all of us about continually making dua for the people of Palestine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for them, ease their suffering, and continually talk about it. I think this is really important because this is the kind of phase where you'll probably not see as much happening in the news. It's like one of those that it's like this many, finding this many killed, and it's just kind of you ignore it. It's something normal, basically. We've seen so many of these happening, and you get kind of used to it. Okay, I remember, it's like when you had those ads for the poor people of Africa, and first time you see a child, you feel really hurt, and you want to contribute as much as possible. And then every kind of day you see it, and over time you kind of just get used to it, and you just kind of flick through it. It's one of those things. So the hope is from their side is that people will just get fatigued in this sense and stop talking about it. But mashallah, the kind of the Josh, it continues from everyone. More and more now I'm seeing events taking place to raise money, inshallah. So yeah, and definitely also look into, when it comes to the charity, which charities are there that can support the most. No doubt certain charities will just take an opportunity to start advertising and try to get as much money as possible because it's at its peak and people want to give as much as possible, contribute as much as possible. But please do a bit of investigation and a bit of research to understand exactly how much of your money will be going there, what's it be getting used for, etc. There are restrictions, no doubt. There are others as well. The places, the countries actually that are suffering. So bear everyone in mind. But here, definitely, please continue to make dua for them. Continue to kind of raise your voice. I know previously it was a case of people were a bit reluctant. Or do we raise money because of we're not sure what really stands, and we're going to get accused, and then certain it is difficult to understand for certain. It's like you can't beat the system. Okay, but more and more now people are kind of raising money for charity and giving it to charities. Okay, so whichever way you can contribute, inshallah, please continue to contribute, and continue to kind of push forward the message. So we continue the Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, and the last few weeks we have focused on Khaybar, and how kind of great a kind of victory Khaybar was. Okay, we spoke about how now the Prophet ﷺ has kind of secured when it comes to the north, he's secured that. Previously he had secured the south with the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. The only concern was the north now, and now that's been secured as well. Now you've got pockets here and there, which we'll kind of touch upon today. But yeah, the victory in terms of the land, it was probably the greatest capture in terms of the land. Okay, but what was agreed upon was that the Jews would continue to run affairs there because they're used to it. They knew they know what to do. Okay, they know what to do. The Prophet ﷺ did not have the manpower or the kind of skill the personal skills. And this is it again. This is lessons we learn from the Prophet ﷺ, and this is why I right at the start, when we say that we're covering the Seerah, when we say lessons that we can learn from it, time and time again, it's a case of Prophet ﷺ knows the situation. Okay, it's a case of it. You know what? No, we're going to take all of it, kick you out. This is ours now. They won't be able to manage it. They'll be losing out. Okay, there is so much kind of wealth to be generated from here. So you get the people, regardless of the fact that Muslim, non-Muslim, the personnel that are equipped to deal with that situation. They got the tools, they got the experience, and all that. That's who's best kind of placed for the work, okay, for the situation to maintain, and then both sides kind of benefit from it, and the Muslims will hugely benefit from this. Okay, they hugely benefit from this. So you have that Khaybar. Then we spoke last week about the marriage to our mother Safiya, and we went into a bit of detail about that, and we spoke a bit about our mother Safiya radiallahu anha. So we continue now, and today is going to be about a bit after Khaybar. And apologies, it might be a short lesson, because what I tend to do is, when you have your normal stuff, kind of the Seerah, you go through it, then I tend to try to look and do a bit more extensive research to bring some kind of additional, little points that maybe people have come across before. But I have kind of been quite busy the past week. But whatever I have got across, then we'll do that. Inshallah, from next week, we'll see how the situation is. But I'm going to try to continue the lessons, but I might have to go abroad for a few weeks. But let's see how it goes. But I want to kind of continue the lessons, inshallah, if possible. But when abroad, obviously, you've got other factors as well. On top of, you've got the internet connection and all that. But we'll see how things go. So coming back then, after the Prophet ﷺ returned from Khaybar, we spoke about the return, and we spoke about his wife and the kind of reactions, etc., and what she had to go through. What I want to quickly do is I want to read from the passage from Sultan of Hearts, because they put it across nicely when it came the alcohol ban. Okay, because according to this source, this is about the time when you had the ban on alcohol. So let's touch upon this then, inshallah, and then we'll continue from there. So before the alcohol ban, some people in the Hijaz were already abstaining from alcohol, having realized its detrimental effects. Among them were Amr ibn Zarib or Afif ibn, so a few names, okay? In the later period, they're talking way before, basically, the likes of the Prophet ﷺ's grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, and all these, okay? In the later period, these people also included Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, Sayyidina Uthman ibn Mazun, Uthman ibn Affan, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, Abbas ibn Mirdas, and Qais ibn Asim. Okay, when they said to Abbas ibn Mirdas, "Will you not take a glass of this drink? It will refresh you and give you strength." He answered, "I do not like the idea of waking up as the lord of my tribe and then go to bed as the most degenerate among them." They realized, what state they go into after drinking. "I swear, no, I will not drink this thing that comes between me and my intellect." So they realized they lose their intellect, and they were really proud of that. Okay, they want to be sharp and know what's happening. And thus he had refused alcohol, which had made people play things in the hands of others. In a verse that had been revealed in Mecca before the Hijrah, it was declared that along with the bad effects of alcoholic drinks they were made out of dates and grapes, there were also some benefits to be had from them if they were used in good faith. As such, alcohol had not been banned entirely. So you see this, and I was touched upon this before as well, that the ban on alcohol comes in stages. Okay, and again, this is lessons we learn. So now when we talk about alcohol, you're like kind of a million miles from me, right? Nothing to do with alcohol, don't touch it, can't sell it, can't be dealing with it in any way possible. Okay, drinking obviously, well, no, but we stay so far away from it. Okay, but here, look at this now, how it came in stages, because you got to understand that how people are kind of stuck in their ways, I suppose, and addicted to it, and then all of a sudden saying it, then the impact probably won't be there. But look at the ways it was done in stages. Okay, I mean, it's similar, and I use this example when it comes to reverts. We have this thing of like a revert, someone who's accepted Islam, and it's a case of this person was probably sinning beforehand, but as soon as you've accepted Islam, that's it, you need to be wali Allah. Okay, well, look at ourselves. How great are we, who have been Muslims all our life? But someone who's had, just all of a sudden just converted, and now you have to be the perfect person. And this is what puts them off a lot. And then you have a lot of the people that can then leave it because they feel it's just too much. And I've touched upon this so many times, okay? As you would treat yourself, okay? But also like kind of bit by bit, okay? You get your point across, okay? This is what it needs to be done, but let's take it step by step. Okay, let's take it step by step. So here again, it was in stages. So initially it's a case of, look, the alcohol, there'll be some kind of benefits from it, but the negativity kind of outweighs the benefit. You drink, you feel good. You can ease, you can relax, you let go of all your worries. All of these things. You think, yeah, these are all good. Okay, so as such, alcohol not be banned entirely. The verse spoke of the beauty of the benefits to be had from the drink, but then there was a great, and again here, beauty, they put them in quotations kind of thing, okay, because you assume it to be beauty. But then there was a great emphasis on the fact that people had to use their reason in their consumption of this drink. The companions were asking questions to the Prophet ﷺ about the drinks that they had hesitated about and were expecting an explanation. Before long, a verse came and revealed that alcoholic drinks had both beneficial and detrimental properties, but that the detrimental properties outweighed the beneficial ones. But this verse did not contain a clear decree of prohibition either, and people like Umar decided to wait and prayed, "Dear Lord, send us a sound and clear decree concerning alcohol." Again, it was not complete, cut off at this point as well. Okay, I'm waiting for the news of the truthful Jibreel would bring. The order of not approaching prayer when intoxicated was not a clear decree. And again, another step. The next step was then, so it's first of all here, look, there's some benefits, but the other side, it outweighs it. The next step was kind of, okay, do not approach prayer while you're drunk, because you got no idea what you're doing. And this will then have reduced it drastically again from amongst the companions, because you got 5 prayers, okay, coming at certain times. So then it's a case of a person thinking, wait a minute, I've got this much time before prayer, and I can't be drunk when I'm about to pray. So again, it would have reduced it. So slowly, step by step, it was getting reduced. The order of not okay, so the prayer one, okay, there was no clear ban as yet again, and so some companions continued to drink in between prayers. But as the developments happened, there was also those who had seen that these verses were leading to, and so were staying away from alcohol. So they realized where it's going towards now, so they tried to stay away from it. But they were not compelled to do so, since the ban had not yet been set. Then one day, Jibreel Islam would bring the final decree concerning alcohol. "O you who believe, intoxicants, games of chance, sacrifices to you, anything serving the function of it, idols, and at places consecrated for offering to other than Allah, and the polytheist practice of divination by arrows," when we went through all of these things before, "are a loathsome evil of Satan's doing. So turn wholly away from it, so that you may prosper in both worlds." Okay, Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 90. These were expressions that would send ripples among the companions, for the verse that came was of nature to put an end to all minds in doubt, and so nobody would have hesitation anymore, and there would be no more space for alcohol in the Hijaz. At the end of the verse, the great Lord said to his subjects who believed in him and turned to him, Satan only seeks to provoke enmity and hatred among you by means of intoxicants and games of chance, and to bar you from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and from prayer. So then, will you not abstain? A question being asked again. The next verse says that. Thus making it clear that faith and alcohol could not coexist together. At the time, people had gathered at Abu Talha's house. For a moment, they heard the voice of the street caller assigned by the Messenger of Allah. He was reading the verse that had just been revealed, proclaiming that alcohol was not entirely prohibited. As soon as he heard the caller's voice, Abu Talha called out to Anas and said, "Go out and see what the verse is saying." Anas went out and came back to tell them what the caller was saying. "Be warned, alcohol has been banned." Everyone froze. Those who were holding their wine glasses dropped them immediately, and those who were about to bring their glasses to their lips threw them to the ground. As soon as the voice of the caller was heard, people started to pour liquor onto the streets from the windows and the doors of their homes. The dry streets of Medina turned into streams of alcohol, and this is kind of a description that's given. That as soon as the command came that alcohol is banned, the streets turned into river of alcohol, because everyone had just kind of thrown it out straight. This is it, we've been commanded. There's no questions asked. Here you go. Okay. From each door of every home, prayers were heard. We have given it up, dear Lord. This was the sensitivity of the companions. They were so sensitive in their religious duties that they had started wondering about those who had drunk before and yet had become martyrs on the battlefield. So now questions kind of raised, well, wait a minute, so if it's been banned, what about those before? Okay, and especially those that have now been martyred, what is their state? Okay. They had started to think of the outcome of their friends who had fought at Badr, Uhud and the trench for the sake of Allah and had fallen martyr. The end of the verse made it clear then. There is no sin on those who believe and do good, righteous deeds for what they might have partaken, as in the pre-Islamic period. Okay, provided like henceforth they fear and kind of their previous creeds and misdeeds, and come to faith and do good, righteous deeds, then keep from disobedience to Allah in reverence for Him and piety and believe, and then be more meticulous in obeying Allah in greater reverence for Him and piety, and be devoted to doing good. Allah loves those who are devoted to doing good, aware that Allah is seeing them. Okay, so here you have about alcohol, how kind of it came about in stages, and this is what happened, and this is what they went through. So yeah, we leave it at that then, inshallah. But I thought kind of this period you just kind of understand the situation and how we kind of came about, inshallah. Okay, so moving on then. So upon his arrival from Khaybar, the Prophet ﷺ's kind of household now included 8 wives, okay, who all lived in separate kind of apartments, kind of majority besides the mosque. Okay, we mentioned about saying that Safiya, that hers was slightly out a bit. Now, as the family kind of steadily grows, kind of thing, several kind of wives begin to voice their jealousy over saying that Aisha. And her kind of favoured status with the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, even kind of the companions sensed it. Even the companions knew that effects of saying that Aisha on him and waited for. So when they wanted something, or they were going to ask something or something, they always waited for the day that the Prophet ﷺ was allocated to saying that Aisha, and then they would kind of gift him something or whatnot, because they knew that there's more chance of something, whatever they're requesting. And this is the other wives kind of saying, well, it's a bit unfair. So what it was a case of, it's like telling the Prophet ﷺ, oh, tell the companions, why are they doing that? So the Prophet ﷺ is showing equality between his wives, but he can't then, that's for himself, he can't then demand it upon others. They have their choice of what they want to do. They're not obliged to follow that. This is his wives. He has to be equal amongst them. So if he's being, unequal in terms of his time he's giving to them, etc., then they can question him on that. but then saying that the companions must also kind of not just wait for the time that he's at Sayyidina Aisha's house. So he can't really do that then. But anyways, Sayyidina Salama rather than finally kind of confronts the Prophet ﷺ about the issues. And he responds with the observation that, he says, look, divine revelation only comes to him when he's with her. Okay? And kind of his explanation kind of leaves Zainab being just kind of unimpressed. And what they decided, they sent Sayyidina Fatima, the Prophet ﷺ's daughter, to talk to her father. She was a bit reluctant, okay, but again, she went. She waited a few days, but then when she was pushed again by Zainab, and she went then, and she kind of relays Zainab's concerns, and the Prophet ﷺ kind of gently reminds her to love the one whom he loves, but saying that Zainab remains unfazed. Okay, when she confronts the Prophet ﷺ directly, he counsels her to speak with Sayyidina Aisha. So what happens is she comes along, when the Prophet ﷺ is saying to Aisha, and the Prophet ﷺ is kind of saying, look, deal with it amongst yourselves. And he says to Sayyidina Aisha, here you go, what have you got to say? And then she comes out with her almost like arguments or points, whatever, which kind of silences Zainab. And later the Prophet ﷺ says, that's when he says, oh, you truly are the daughter of Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Okay, now around about this time, what also happens is the sister of Sayyidina Khadija, Hala, came to Medina to visit her son Abu al-As and his family, as in Zainab and Umama. Sayyidina Aisha said that when the Prophet ﷺ heard Hala speak, so she approached the As and she called out. Okay, when she spoke out, asked permission to enter Sayyidina Aisha's apartment. The Prophet ﷺ kind of trembled and he went pale because the voice of Hala resembled the voice of Sayyidina Khadija. And actually the way she called out and the way she asked for permission was similar to Sayyidina Khadija's. And the Prophet ﷺ was just like, struck, and again, Sayyidina Aisha noticed this and she got jealous. And ironically, actually, that everyone's kind of jealous of Sayyidina Aisha, although the wives are jealous of Sayyidina Aisha because she was known to be the favorite of the Prophet ﷺ. But ironically, Sayyidina Aisha was, and we've touched upon this, she was jealous of Sayyidina Khadija, because although she was not about, but the Prophet ﷺ would always talk about her. Okay, and she says this, she goes, I was not jealous of any other wife of the Prophet ﷺ as I was jealous of Khadija. For his, as in the Prophet ﷺ, constant mentioning of her, and because God had bidden him, like given her good tidings of a kind of mansion in paradise, of precious stones. Okay, and whensoever he sacrificed a sheep, he would send a goodly portion of it unto those who had been her intimate friends, her intimate friends, like he would always send it to them. Okay, and these again, you got lessons we learn from ourselves, and I touch upon this, for example, parents or family members, etc., who have passed away. Their friends, you need to be close with them. Okay, you need to continually be close with them, and it's one of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, so many a time she goes, I said unto him, it is as if there had never been any other woman in the world save only Khadija. Okay. So anyway, so there's this kind of tension going about in the household, the wives, and actually it goes kind of almost next level later on, and we'll touch upon this maybe in the next few weeks or so, inshallah, if Allah Ta'ala gives us the ability. But at this point, so what happens is to kind of almost ease the tension somewhat, the growing tension. The Prophet ﷺ, when he comes into when they're all sitting around, he walks into the house and he says that he will give this kind of onyx necklace. Okay, he goes, I'm going to give it to them who is the most beloved to me. Okay, he goes, who is the most beloved to me. So the rest of it, it's obviously going to be, it's obviously going to be Aisha, isn't it? Okay, it's obviously going to be Aisha. They knew straight away. But anyway, so what happened? He kind of teased them for a bit, and then later on, he calls his only granddaughter Umama, the daughter of Zainab. He calls her and he gives her the necklace. Okay, and this is obviously the similar affection that the grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ, the Moonlit, kind of used to show his grandchildren. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ never missed an opportunity um, to express affection for his grandchildren. Okay, especially Sayyidina Fatima's two boys. We've touched upon that. Sayyidina Hassan and Hussein. He once said that the dearest unto me of the people of my house are Hassan and Hussein, including you've also got the son of Zayd, Uthama, who again you could say was his grandson, because he adopted Sayyidina Zayd. Okay, so now after Sayyidina Safiya's addition to the household, Sayyidina Aisha noted that the kind of wives generally fell into two social circles. Remember we spoke about Sayyidina Aisha coming to see, because she sent someone first and said, oh, how is she? And oh, she's beautiful. So then Sayyidina Aisha kind of went to see herself. And Sayyidina Aisha and Sayyidina Safiya were kind of similar age. Well, the closest to age is obviously Sayyidina Aisha was the youngest of all of them, but the closest of age was Sayyidina Safiya, and she was beautiful. So initially she was a bit like, oh yeah, I just saw a Jew. Saw the daughter of a Jew. That she said that to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ kind of told her off to say, look, now she's a Muslim, so don't say that. But then what happened is that they became close. So, and Sayyidina Aisha mentioned that the wives kind of generally fell into two social circles. The first included Sayyidina Sauda. Okay, she was quite the elderly one, and she was almost like the mother figure for the others. And within that group, so you got Sayyidina Sauda, Sayyidina Aisha, Sayyidina Hafsa, and Sayyidina Safiya. Okay, actually Sayyidina Sauda also around this time kind of gave up her day, because she knew that the Prophet ﷺ enjoyed his time with Sayyidina Aisha. So she gave up her day. She's saying, look, I'm kind of old as it is. I don't require anything from you. And the Prophet ﷺ asked her that, if you want me to, I can free you. Like, as in, if you want to, if you want, I'll divorce you. Then if you feel that, there's no requirements, etc. But she said, no, she wants to be, the only thing she wants is to be the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, and on Judgment Day, rise as the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, but she kind of gave up her day. Okay, she gave up her day for Sayyidina Aisha. So you had that one group. And then the second group included Salama, Sayyidina Zainab bin Jash, Sayyidina Juwairiya, and Sayyidina Habiba. Okay. Now, when it came to the wives, the Prophet ﷺ did not expect his wives to kind of treat him like others do, as the messenger. But he wanted them to just treat him like an ordinary husband. This was the nature of the Prophet ﷺ. This was the nature of the Prophet ﷺ. And we'll touch upon this a bit later on as well. A few of the incidents kind of take place, how the Prophet ﷺ is with others. Before that, actually, so there was a number of expeditions, actually. Okay, so after kind of securing the treaties with Makkah and Khaybar, the Prophet ﷺ returned to Medina and focuses his attention to the east. Okay, and when he hears that the Bedouin clans from Banu Ghatafan are planning to attack Medina, the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, and several others, companions lead a number of preemptive campaigns to subdue the threat. So there was a number of small kind of campaigns, and one of these include an urgent expedition to protect the Jews of Fadak. So remember we spoke about Khaybar, and then you had this other one group, Fadak, who when they saw that these are kind of reasonable terms, etc. Let's just make the most of it and say that we want these terms as well. So now they come under the protection of the Prophet ﷺ. So kind of now is the job of the Prophet ﷺ to protect them, and they were being attacked, etc. by this Bedouin tribe, etc. So they needed a protection against the Ghatafan clan of Murrah. Okay, Murrah. Now this could be the one that the Prophet ﷺ put Sayyidina Usama ibn Zayd. Okay, so remember Zayd was the adopted son of the Prophet ﷺ, which later on they said, like, you don't have any sons, like you can't adopt whatever not. So Sayyidina Usama was the son of Zayd. Okay, So kind of the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, and he loved him, he loved him immensely. Now, it could be that this was the expedition that he was put in charge. So remember, he was put in charge of an expedition even at the age of 17. Okay, and could this be one? Because there was some that said it's this one, and some say he was just taking part in it. Okay, but either way, he was put in charge on one of them. But let's just go with the fact that it could be this one. Okay, but I think Martin Ling kind of mentioned it that it wasn't, and he mentioned that someone else, one of the other companions, was the kind of one in charge of it. So what happens is obviously there's this battle, etc., and then one of the men of Bani Murrah kind of they run into the desert, and I think he must have been the leader, and he was mocking then Usama. Okay, he's like, why are you coming in front of me, you little kid? You don't have the almost status to fight me. And remember, Usama he was trying to prove himself as well. This responsibility given by the Prophet ﷺ, or he's in a battle. Even if he wasn't leading it, he was still in a battle. Maybe his first battle as well. So he was trying to prove himself. Okay, he was trying to prove himself. And this man kind of mocking him more and more, and then he runs into the desert. And then what happens is Osama kind of follows him. He chases him. Okay, he chases him. And he kind of fights him and knocks him down. And just as he's about to kill him, the man hurriedly he testifies, Allah ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. So he reads out the kalma. He testifies, I testify that there's one God and the Prophet ﷺ is his messenger. Okay. But what happens is Usama, kind of says, oh, he's just doing that to save himself, and he still kills him. Okay, he kills him. And what happens is then at the camp, the others are kind of all worried. Where's Usama gone? Where's Usama gone? Because they knew how beloved he was to the Prophet ﷺ. But then he returns. He returns and he tells them what happened. And the elderly companion kind of scold him and they say, oh, it was a poor judgment on your behalf. Anyway, so they go set back and they go and when they reach back to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ kind of meets him and he's really happy and he says, oh, well, how was your expedition? And then he went through, okay, this is what happened. And then he said, look, I chased this person as well. And this is what happened. And he said the kalma, and then the Prophet said something, oh, you did not kill him, did you? He says he only did it because he was trying to save himself. And the Prophet asked him to reflect on his intentions. It's like, did you rip open his heart to check whether he was saying, did you rip open his heart and check? Okay, did you? Sorry, just a sec. Okay, I think we've come back. There was just a bit of, I think they're disconnected. He said, did you rip open his heart and check that whether he was telling the truth or he was lying? And he repeated that. Okay, he repeated that. And said Osama later on says that I wished and I felt like had I just become Muslim on that day, meaning that all your previous sins are forgiven, etc. And he says, I just wish that had I become Muslim on that day. Now, look at the comparison here. And again, it's important here because we have a similar thing you have with Sayyidina Ali. Okay, similar thing you have with Sayyidina Ali. And it could have been, we've mentioned it before as well, but it could have been previous battles, but it could have been a Khaybar. So he was fighting one of the enemies. And he strikes him and the enemy falls and he's just about to kill him and the enemy spits at him, Sayyidina Ali's face. And then what does Sayyidina Ali do? He stops. He stops and he stands back. Okay? And obviously you have variations in the narration. Some is that the man asked, why did you stop? Some is that the rest of the companions said, why did you stop? Some is that he tells the man to get up, let's fight again. He fights again and then he kills him. Then there's another is that, he becomes a Muslim. Regardless of whatever it is, the point here is what happens, what does Sayyidina Ali do and the reason he gives. So he stops and he steps back. And even if he says, come on, let's fight again, or, whatever happens, when asked why he did that, he goes, I was fighting for the sake of Allah. But when he spat at me, I kind of got a bit angry, or then I thought to myself, okay, now if I kill him, Will it be for the sake of Allah, or would it be like an avenging or revenge that he spat at me? And would it be my my nafs, my personal kind of thing here? Now look at this, Sayyidina Ali in the midst of a battle. Okay, in the midst of a battle, he still has that mindset. Okay, and this nurturing of the Prophet ﷺ. And again, you can say about Usama, look how differently he approached it. But again, he was young, 17-year-old. But when it comes down to the Prophet ﷺ, then ensuring that they learn from their mistakes continuously. It's like continually saying, oh, did you look into his heart? Did you rip open his chest and look into his heart whether he was telling the truth or lying? Okay, continuously, and putting them in their place. Regardless of the fact that you're the kind of adopted grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, regardless of the fact that he loved you so much, if you've kind of made an error, if you made a mistake, he will reprimand you for it. Okay, so subhanAllah, you see all of this, you see the Seerah time and time again, all of these lessons that you learn and you can take from it. Okay, you can take from it. So anyway, so that was just an incident that took place that was worth mentioning. Okay, and going forward then, you had the kind of months after Hudaybiyah, Khaybar, you marked a period of like a relative peace and prosperity in Medina. As wealth entered the city. As wealth entered the city. So we spoke about so much wealth entering the city. The Prophet ﷺ's wives began to kind of ask more of him. Okay, on one occasion, Sayyidina Umar. Okay, so this one actually, we'll talk about the wives a bit later, but there was an incident that takes place is that because there's more and more now, the Prophet ﷺ has more and more. Now, there's women, and they're behind like a kind of parda, curtain, whether they were there before or not, but when Sayyidina Umar enters, they are. And it's a famous incident that everyone knows of, but it happens about this time, so let's go for it. So what happens is that they're asking the Prophet ﷺ for this garment or that garment, because so much wealth has come about, and the Prophet ﷺ, they know Prophet ﷺ never says no. Okay, and he just kind of gives out to everyone. He's not concerned about, oh no, I want this, I want this. No, he just wants to kind of get rid of it, give it out. So they're continually asking. So what happens is that Umar approaches the Prophet ﷺ's house, and he can hear these women kind of talking loudly to each other. And the Prophet ﷺ regarding the fate of some of those garments and the household as part of the kind of spoils of war, etc. But when Sayyidina Umar enters the Prophet ﷺ's house, the room kind of immediately falls silent. Okay, the room immediately falls silent, and the kind of scene is so much for the Prophet ﷺ, and he's there laughing. Now again, when we describe the laughter of the Prophet ﷺ, there's a description given that he never would laugh out aloud. He's like a broad smile. That's kind of his laughter kind of thing. But anyway, so the description of the Prophet ﷺ is laughing. And Sayyidina Umar says, he gets happy when he sees the Prophet ﷺ like this, and he says, may God fill your life with laughter. Okay, he's really happy. May God fill your life with laughter. So the Prophet ﷺ told him how the women kind of rushed when they heard his voice, because obviously he called out. So when you enter, he called out, do I have permission to enter, Ya Rasulullah? As soon as they heard his voice, they rushed behind the kind of part of behind the curtains. And Sayyidina Umar said that, to the Prophet ﷺ, rather, it's your right than mine. They should stand in awe of you, not me. So what's going on here? They should be standing in awe of you, not me. And then he kind of turns to the women and says, oh, enemies of yourself. Okay, oh, enemies of yourself. You fear me over you fear me and you do not fear Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the women kind of replied back to him that, oh, you're rough and harsher than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, you're rough and harsher than Allah's Messenger. Okay, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam kind of lovingly tells Sayyidina Umar, and he says it, and he either says now or a bit earlier on when he does enter, and when he's laughter, he says, oh, son of Khattab, by him in whose hand is my soul. And again, another famous narration that we have when we describe Sayyidina Umar. And the Prophet ﷺ said that by whose hand is in my soul, if Satan found that you were traveling upon a certain path, he would choose to go himself by another path, by yours. And like another variation is if you were walking down one side of the road or one side of the street, and Satan was if Satan was walking on one side of the street, Shaitan was walking on one side of the street, and he sees you coming in the opposite direction, he would rush off to different direction. It's okay, so almost like he will, let me go across the road and walk on the other side of the street. Okay, this was the state of Sayyidina Umar. We spoke about the intellect. We spoke about you losing intellect with alcohol. When this description was given about the angels that come to question you in your grave. Okay, when the angels come to question your grave, and the Prophet and Sayyidina Umar then said, "Oh, do I keep my intellect? Like when we die, do I still keep my intellect?" And the Prophet ﷺ, yes. Then he said, "Yeah, then I've got him. Then I got him. Then I got him. When he comes out, because he was very smart. And some narrations are, and we'll touch upon it if we get a chance later, and that when they question him, he turns around and questions them back. You tell me who you. You tell me this, you tell me that. Okay, but this was Sayyidina Umar. Okay. Now, among all of these as well, even Sayyidina Zayd's wife, Ayman, she wants a share of the wealth coming into Medina. And when she asked the Prophet ﷺ for her own camel, the Prophet ﷺ sternly kind of replies that, he says, "I will only give you the child of a camel. Okay, I'm only going to give you a child of a camel." And at first, Sayyidina Ayman refuses. She goes, she refuses. No, why is that? Why am I only getting a child of a camel? Okay, but then she sees a kind of smile creeping over the face of the Prophet ﷺ, and then she realizes that all camels are the children of camels, and the Prophet ﷺ had intended to give her a full-grown animal. And again, here you see this side of the Prophet ﷺ, when you see joking side, and again, when we get together, etc., and it's fine for. See, remember when the Prophet ﷺ joked, he did not lie. And I say this to a lot of the guys as well when I see when they're messing around this and that. I say, look, there's no need to lie, because what happens is that you then start getting into this habit. You're joking with someone and you lie, and oh yeah, I was only lying, and before you know it, it's second nature to lie, and you don't think too much about it. But here the Prophet ﷺ, he jokes around as well, and almost like pulling someone's leg, but he doesn't lie. Okay, so even this, the way he's saying it as well, I'm only going to give you a child of a camel. And they could say, "Oh, you're going to give me a small one." No, I want a big one. All, and you realize later that all are the children of camels. So the Prophet ﷺ was still telling the truth. Okay. So since the Hijrah, kind of many Meccan men, and again we're talking about women here as well, and they're finding themselves kind of unaccustomed to Medina culture, where the women kind of tend to be more outspoken with their husbands. Okay, and Watts kind of writes this. He says, indeed, the women of Medina in general were noted for pride and for jealousy and of their honor and position, summarized in the kind of word of ghair. The Prophet ﷺ is said to have remarked that because of their ghair, he would not marry a woman of the Ansar, since she would not have sufficient patience to endure fellow wives. Okay, and even if this is not the whole reason, because this, some of the commentators give this as one of the reasons, but even if this is not the whole reason for the Prophet ﷺ not marrying a Medina woman, there is doubtless something in it. It also some kind of comment that the Prophet ﷺ needed to stay impartial, and his impartiality would be seriously infringed by such marriages. Okay, but the contrast, the social attitude in Mecca and Medina may explain why there was hardly any intermarriage between the immigrants, the Muhajir and the Ansar. Okay, a saying of the Sayyidina Umar recorded that he said, "Look, we of the Quraysh used to dominate our women, but when we came among the Ansar, they proved to be a people whose women dominated them, and our women began to copy the habits of the women of the Ansar." And actually, I think what the incident kind of happened was that it was so the Umar's wife, she said something back to him, and that's when he came about. Look, whoa, what's happening here? Because he's used to this scenario of just be Satan, you have to listen. And look at this, subhanAllah, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was though. Okay, and he was bringing about this, what you would say, where with this Western culture talks about rights of women, that only came about in the 19th century. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought about rights of women back then. Okay, the rest of them, they were not used to that. We just say this, this, and this, we demand this, this, and this, and it happens. But no, the Prophet ﷺ spoke about rights of women. So again, here, he said it because I think he may have said it at this time as well, or said it later on that this is it. And his wife turned around and responded and said to him that, yeah, but the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, they speak to him like that. Okay? And I gave an example of, even Zainab as well. And on one occasion, actually, he scolds her for her boldness. Zainab kind of counters that, again, the wife of and then this is kind of the narration on it, including their own daughter Hafsa. So he even said, even his daughter Hafsa, and they're saying she's even free to voice their opinion. So he kind of approaches them and says, look, what's happening here? He confronts Hafsa, etc. And they're like, it's almost like, well, why have you got a problem when the Prophet ﷺ doesn't have a problem? And that's when he realizes that, maybe he's kind of dwelling in it too much and kind of almost like mind his own business, really. Okay? He's obviously thinking good from his side, but sometimes it's a case of, well, the answer was that, well, what's your problem? If not in those words, but you know what I mean. It's like a case of the Prophet ﷺ is fine with it. The way he's wise, we speak to him. This is how our relationship is, etc. Okay? This time actually we took longer than I thought, but we leave it at that, inshallah. We're going to try to, like I said, I'll try to continue inshallah next week, but let's see how the situation is. Obviously, if you guys are, I don't, it was like the kids saying to me that, you need to say at the end of your lessons, subscribe and share and notification, click the bell, whatever not. I said, yeah, I don't need to do that. People will find it if they need to find it. But yeah, if you are kind of subscribed, I'm assuming you get a email or a notification to say if class is about to take place. So, but you'll find out, inshallah. It'll be available there. Okay, so we leave it at that then. Sallallahu Sayyidina Muhammad wa sallam wa salli alayhi. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.